And I was like, yo, dude, have you heard this shit? And he was like, nope, listening to it right now.
Nice. Yeah, spread it. Spread it around. It is crazy though, because you're not looking for something like that, and then someone tells you, and you're like, wait, did you say Danger Mouse and Black Thought dropped an album? Like, no way, dude. And then like Raekwon's on there, you got NF2. Like, what? I mean, how do I not know about this?
Wasn't Method Man on one of the tracks too? I was like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, it's I love it.
And we are live. You guys timed that out perfectly for me. Thank you. Welcome
nice segue.
To Pixel Pints. We're the only global gaming podcast that covers two great things, which is good beer and video games. I'm your host, Mitch. McWomble is away today, so I will be hosting for you this morning in what area time zone you're in, and sometimes evening if you're in another time zone. But I am joined by an esteemed panel of excellent friends and what we call ourselves professional interpreters of the games industry, right? Joining me from Las Vegas, I got Burkoff. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. I couldn't make it last week because had friends in town, and we went instead of going out for New Year's Eve, we went out for New Year's Eve. And when we went live last week, I probably still would have been intoxicated.
That's okay. So, you just didn't want to, one, be disappointed on your game of the year, and then two, you also did not want to be last in the draft. So I feel you.
I did watch it though. I thought it was funny because Keith was like, "Oh, Matt's gonna love this beer. I'm gonna, when he watches this," and then like halfway through the episode, he's like, "Yeah, it's not that good."
As he does. Joining us all the way from Japan, where it's happy Halloween, but not, it's game over. I don't understand the other half. And also, why aren't you cleaning your board? Evan Piotrowski.
Yeah, like I bought this, I spent a lot of money on this blackboard wallpaper, and I haven't changed that. Well, it says 11/12.
Oh, is that
which
what
is
it
the
says?
Second time.
It looks like half. What, like one in a two. I don't see the double one.
And I remember writing initially the Happy Halloween before Halloween, so that's been there for over almost 3 months now. Eventually, these pictures are going to replace it. So why did I spend money on the chalkboard wallpaper? I'm not sure. But,
because you wanted to amp up our production value for Halloween episode. We appreciate it.
I paid like $400 or whatever it was for a single episode. Jesus Christ.
Go big,
I'm doing well.
Home.
I got back from the States last night. I was traveling for over 24 hours. Fought it. Was able to hold out until midnight so I could get solid 7 hours of sleep, try to reset my clock. I'm still tired. But before the wedding, we wanted Her Majesty to meet my family. So we did it with Christmas with my mom's family. So it's like 6 siblings, cousins. There's like 35 people there. And then New Year's with my dad's side of the family, a smaller event. But imagine spending 10 straight days, almost 2 weeks with your in-laws. And it wasn't your native language. So she held her own. She did a really, really nice job. And I'm happy she met my family and pretty much everyone. Like the whole checklist of people, she met almost everyone. It was it was like a comprehensive, this is where I come from type of journey for her. So awesome. Shout out to Her Majesty for that. And I gained only 2 kilos, which is surprising considering I ate and drank everything in sight. I was just drinking all day and eating all day. It was amazing.
That 2 kilos is all cheese, dude.
Yeah.
All them cheese.
In the morning, I'm not even kidding. In the morning, I'd sit at my kitchen table in my parents' house, and I would just, with a knife, I had a thing of Usinger's sausage, which is a Milwaukee sausage company, and a block of mild cheddar. Yeah. And with a knife, and I just slice it off and eat. That's what I had for breakfast almost every day. It was
nice.
So good.
It's a Wisconsin tradition. It's a true
That's, dude,
Wisconsinite through and through.
There is no cereal at the supermarket. That in the breakfast aisle, it's just sausage and cheese. That's the only thing we consume You get a little chaser as well after you finish your milk when you're a kid. Little PBR chaser. Yeah, it's growing up in Wisconsin. So
and what we call Her Majesty from doing all that work for you, we call that wife material. Moving on to joining us from across the pond but the other way, and that is Liam. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Not quite as exciting a holiday period, but I still had a good time. So I feel refreshed and ready for 2023.
As we are. Well, if you don't know who we are Pixel Pints. We cover games and beer with our people all across the globe. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at pixel_pints, or on Instagram at pixelpintspod. We stream live on twitch.tv/pixelpints every single weekend, practically. And if you want to know when we go live, follow us on Twitter, and then we'll post when we go live, and boom, you can watch us on twitch.tv/pixelpints. But we also archive all our episodes on YouTube and on podcast services around the globe. You also can join us in the chat, like Swanland is joining us right now. Survived a crazy storm. Interesting to know. Morning is where I gained all my weight from Christmas. Interesting. All right. But No Beers and Brews are not sponsoring us. We implore you all to drink responsibly. But we always start the show with some beer talk. Now, who's got beverages? Because I got some too.
I don't have anything fancy, but I did get Pabst Blue Ribbon. They're doing these like fancy art cans. So I picked up a 12-pack of Pabst. That's what I'll be drinking tonight.
Nice.
I feel like they're the quintessential millennial beer company, because like that's the type of stuff that like Surge and all the sodas that we drank like back in the 90s. They would do like fancy can designs and different artwork and stuff, and so it's kind of funny that now that I'm older, the beer that I like to drink is doing that.
I got a Fever Tree premium ginger beer.
Okay.
I've actually never had ginger beer, so I thought I'd give it a shot.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Oh wow, we have that over here.
Let's see how this goes.
That's nice.
Oh shit.
Try not to spill it on the keyboard.
Yep. Don't worry, I dodged it all. This is what happens when we do over 100 episodes. We get good at this stuff. Let's see if it's okay now. Okay, we're good. I was completely off the keyboard. It was off my new mat. I got
nice.
So we did a Secret Santa at work, and one of my items I got was a LED, basically like mat for my computer, for basically my keyboard. Okay. And so around the rim, it's LED lights. So it's pretty nice. So I didn't want to get it on that because it's just brand new, and it's I don't want to have to clean that shit. Okay, definitely chased all the ginger. Holy cow, it is ginger.
Oh, by the way, can you see McWomble's reflection in my Suspiria poster?
Yes, I can.
I'm gonna keep him up there. He's here. He's with us in spirit.
Oh my god.
So I brought several beers home from the States, and at the airport, both of my TSA locks broke.
Oh,
and
shit.
I had wrapped beer in there, so a guy had to come over and wrap my entire suitcase in cellophane tape. And I just watched it like get checked in and go down the little conveyor belt. I'm like, well, let's see what happens. Yeah, luckily they were all saved. I wish I could have brought back more. But today I'm drinking Capital Brewery's Wisconsin Amber.
Nice.
This is Capital Brewery, so I'm guessing it's from Madison. No, it's from Middleton, Wisconsin.
Probably Middleton.
I don't know where that is.
I think that is just outside of Appleton.
You know what? I was thinking that because Appleton is almost smack dab in the middle of Wisconsin, and I know that because I was born there, and so was Willem Dafoe. That's your Appleton.
My
Wisconsin,
godparents live in
kid-
Appleton, so I visit there
nice.
very often.
Yeah, it's right on the lake. You know, by the way, Minneapolis or Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes. Wisconsin has more than 10,000 lakes, so we should be called the dairy state and also the state of 10,000 lakes. But it wouldn't fit on the license plate.
No, it should be the dairy state and more lakes than Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah, actually, yeah.
And then Minnesota, even though it has 10,000 lakes, it's like 9,000 shitty lakes.
Okay, so Swanland lives just outside of St. Paul. Swanland. I lived in Minneapolis for 4.5 years. I absolutely loved it. I love Minnesota, so no hard feelings, please. Okay, so this is it's got your, let's see the bulletin points here. Deep amber color, multi caramel with a balanced finish. It is 28 IBUs, so that's seems a little high for an amber, yeah. 5.2% alcohol by volume, and I've been drinking a little bit of it here. Yeah, it's got a nice color to it. Got that reddish kind of dark amber color, hence the name. And let's see. Yeah, nice sweet caramel. As I used to say caramel, but then I been around too many Brits and I changed the way I say it. But yeah, it's good. It's solid. I had way too many IPAs when I was in the States. I just got overwhelmed. I was buying 6-packs here and there and drinking all these session 7.5% IPAs. So it's actually nice to have something that, even though it is 5.2%, it's light, it's sweet. It does have a bitterness to it with a kind of a bit higher in IBUs. But yeah, this is a nice drinkable amber beer, and it's a nice kind of palate cleanser between all these heavier beers that I've been having. Not the best amber I've had. It's not a knock your socks off type of beer, but yeah, Capital Breweries Wisconsin Amber. It's pretty good. I got some other beers in the fridge, but I'm going to save that for another time. I got Two Hearted, Bell's Two Hearted in the fridge. One of my favorite beers.
You've talked about
Bell's
that before,
from Michigan. Yeah. I'll do that maybe next time. But yeah, this is solid. I like it.
All right. Now to the topic of the day.
We skipped Liam, but he's probably not drinking this early.
No.
We already know Liam doesn't drink on the show. Like as an insightful host, I already anticipated and was ready for this. You ruined my transition, Burkoff.
It's difficult to do on keto. Just there isn't many options, and the options that are there aren't the best. And you don't feel like drinking them that often.
Yeah,
I know Liam will drink when he will state it as like the first thing. As soon as we say like, "Does anybody got beers?" Liam would be like, "I actually am drinking this time."
Yeah.
So that's fair. Also, this ginger beer is
excited and giddy about it.
Yeah. I was gonna say this also is a non-alcoholic beer, I believe. This ginger beer, so
I think it has a small amount. Usually, ginger beer has like 0.5% or 1% or something.
I don't see it on here.
I don't think they have to list it.
Doesn't have any alcohol in the UK.
I don't think they have to list it if it's under 4 or
5%.
5%. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh well. But anyway, okay. Back to the topic. The topic of the show today is we did our our awards. Some people were upset. That's okay. We'll talk about it later. But anyway. But we did do one award, which was most anticipated game, which went to Final Fantasy 16. But everyone gets a say on like what their most anticipated game is, and I think it was a ample time to start the year off fresh, hot, sexy by just going, what is your personal most anticipated game for this year? And then also we're gonna go with bold predictions after this. We'll get to that later, but first we're gonna do around the room of our most highly anticipated game for next year. If you have a runner-up, we can have a runner-up. But I'm just gonna go straight to Evan.
Whoa!
What is Your most anticipated game of this year?
I think it was on. I had listed it in the category. Does anyone want to take a stab? If you remember,
Well, don't ask me.
God, no.
You sent it to me. I know what it is.
it is the sequel to one of like a top 20 of all time game.
It's not
So
even
that-
confirmed to come out this year, dude.
Yes, well, not confirmed, but they did drop a 2023 release window in August. All right, we wasting time here. It is a sequel to Blasphemous. Blasphemous 2. So I don't know. Not a lot of people on this show had played this game, so a bit of history. So Blasphemous, the original, is a game by the Game Kitchen. It's a Spanish studio in Seville, Spain, I believe. And their first game was called The Last Door, and it was initially kickstarted in 2013, and then they released some episodes up until 2016. And then the Kickstarter for Blasphemous 1 started in 2017, and the game released 2 years later. I believe it was a 3-year from pre-production to release, a 3-year cycle. It released in September of 2019. It was kickstarted by fewer than 10,000 people for about $333,000. Obviously, they had help throughout the. I believe a publisher picked them up and they got some help there. But so a game like Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda, it's similar to Matt Kyle of Game Face when he had talked about how Spider-Man 2 is not his most anticipated because it's more of a known quantity for him. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom isn't necessarily a known quantity for me because I'm really worried about how the game is going to perform on the Switch, given in 2017, in places like the Lost Woods and Kakariko Village, Breath of the Wild chugged a bit. That's not make or break for me with that game. Neither are graphics, as long as the game is good. But in the case of Blasphemous, it's not necessarily a known quantity. It's more of they imagine a studio just saying they have an idea and they're like, okay, we're gonna make a Metroidvania. We know we're gonna make a Metroidvania. There's plenty out there to look at and take ideas from, and then they launch a Kickstarter for it, and then they just proceed to completely knock it out of the park in terms of pixel art design, even story is great. It's not necessarily like a Bloodborne type thing, but it is a bit esoteric in a lot of ways. But the DLC that came out, free by the way, they released 3 free DLCs from 2020 to 2021, which I thought is pretty awesome. The final DLC really wrapped up the story in a way that made more sense. Imagine if like a Souls game finally sat down and explained exactly what's going on instead of everyone parsing information, releasing YouTube videos and stuff like that. But yeah, so they knock it out of the park immediately, and so a team that can have their first try at a genre or a subgenre, whatever you want to call Metroidvania, for them to make a game that plays that well, the combat is hyperlight drifter tier, deliberate. The parry window is perfect. It has a level of challenge that it's not cheap in any way. When you die, well, if you're not climbing ladders, when you die, it's your fault. And they just somehow just make this amazing game from the get-go, which leads me to believe that they've learned a lot from this initial crack at a Metroidvania. It's amazing that it was as good as it was, considering it was their first Metroidvania kind of action platformer game. So that's why I'm anticipating that is the promise of what they've learned from that. And another interesting thing is I played the game late. I played it about a year after it came out in consoles, and I ended up looking at a playthrough that was the initial build, and a lot of the backgrounds in the initial build, it surprised me because they had they added stuff to the game in patches way later. A lot of the backgrounds were flat, and I think we've seen not all pixel art is created equal. There's a difference between pixel art that looks flat and then one that just like, it's really, really difficult, but it creates like 3D. It makes it look 3D. It feels rounder. And looking at what it used to be, even on launch in 2019, and what they did to the game a year later, you can tell they've learned so much about how to create backgrounds and add to a project. So I'm just sky high for this game. There's a stinger at the end of the Wounds of Eventide, the final DLC, that adds another final boss and answers a lot of questions people had. And at the very end of the game, it has this like Marvel style stinger at the end. It's like, whoa, this blows the doors open for the possibilities in terms of story. But yeah, it's really, really looking forward to it. And yeah, I just but as Mitch said, I don't know if it's going to come out this year. So we will see. If it needs more time in the cooker, that's fine. But yeah, Blasphemous 2 is my most anticipated.
Well, to give you some ease of maybe your nervousness about Tears of the Kingdom, my feeling is because they had to make it for not only Switch but for Wii U, might have had hindrance to some of the back end side of developing that game, which could cause some hiccups for the Switch itself. So,
referring to Breath of the Wild when that came out.
Yeah,
sure.
that it might run better. I'm also have some nervousness, especially since I saw Pokemon and how bad that came out. But
different teams,
yeah. Yet they're pushing the hardware.
You wonder.
They're pushing.
You
the
wonder
hardware.
if like the main.
Look at Pokemon,
ahead,
and then look at Breath of the Wild, and then look at Xenoblade Chronicles. Like,
okay,
yeah.
Liam. Yeah,
Pokemon developers have like a year to work on these games, and
yeah, and they've had much more time,
more staff, and more time, and more everything.
Yeah.
Do you think like the team working on Tears of the Kingdom, they saw Xenoblade Chronicles 3, like a build of it, and they called them up like, all right, how did you do that? You need to help us, please. Because I'm playing that game and it's pretty impressive.
Luckily for them, the team behind Xenoblade is actually involved in they were involved in development of Breath of the Wild, and they're involved in development of Tears of the Kingdom. So, hopefully they'd have all of their resources available to them.
That's Monolith
That's
Soft,
great.
right?
Yeah, Monolith Soft.
Yeah.
And most of the time anyway, especially early in the development process, you take the time to meet with different teams to see what not one, what they're working on, but two, kind of exchange notes of being like, how'd you do that? Yeah. And they like let you know, and that's what you use in your early pre-production phase before you start wrapping up into production. So like once you're in production, then there isn't really much time to really do that kind of thing, whereas that's what you happen in between projects. So
get those pipelines down.
Wait a minute, Mitch. Mitch on the previous episode, someone had said like, "Oh, did Santa Monica call up Naughty Dog and talk to them about the accessibility stuff?" And you were like, "No comment." And your comment now just kind of makes me believe that maybe that's a indirect yes.
What I can tell you is, you know, you can hear the exact same audio cues in some of the button inputs in God of War Ragnarok than in The Last of Us. So
interesting.
Shout out to Justin Mullins who made those. Those are amazing. Did a great job on those when he worked on those on T2. Anyway, Burkoff, what is your most anticipated?
All right. Okay. Well, this is gonna suck for the audio listeners, but I'm gonna do a visual thing first. I'm gonna see if you guys can guess it. Can you see the photo?
Starfield.
Starfield would be the one, but I wanted to pick something else because I figured that was too obvious. Okay, so
it's a man in a tree.
There's a person climbing a tree with like Chinese characters.
Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah. There's plenty of tree climbing in Banjo-Kazooie, right?
Oh, I think I know. Is it that game Wo Long? No, not Wo Long.
You're very close.
Chinese-made game, Black Wukong.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Hi.
monkey
Yeah.
kung fighter.
The Monkey
Elden-
King's Amazing Adventures. Yeah, Journey to the
Sure,
West.
Burkoff loves the Journey to the West story.
I do.
Wait.
Yeah, it's
Wait, hold on.
it's
Clarification.
nice
Is this the one? There's two different ones that are kind of similar. This is not the one that's being that Souls one that's coming out this year. That's early this year. Or are you talking about the one that's made by a Chinese developer? Are you talking about that one?
it's the Chinese game. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, that one
Yeah,
looks neat. I don't know if it's coming out this year.
Actually, well, I think that it is. I think that there's something that I read.
They slapped a 2023 release date on it.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody
So-
can slap
Although,
anything.
bear in mind, none of these amazing looking Chinese games have seen release yet. So
Yeah, I was gonna say anyone can slap 2023 on something and call it a day.
So out of all of them, I feel like this one's like the most impressive, the most looks like it's the most put together. I feel like it has the best chance of coming out, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah, because like that game, Crimson Desert looks pretty awesome. That's a Korean game, right?
I remember when that was supposed to come out in 2021.
Right. Yeah, I want to see that come out eventually.
I'm sorry, Burkoff.
But,
I like the game, but I think it's a nice vertical slice. I don't
Don't know if it's a full game yet.
I don't know if it's a full game yet.
Might not be, but yeah. In lieu of just being like, "Well, I'm interested in Starfield," you know, I figured I would pick something else to bring to the table, and I've been looking forward to that honestly since the first trailer that I saw, like the first footage that they released.
It does look really good. I'm excited for that one too.
Yeah, and I don't think that it'll be like Souls-like or anything like that. I think it's just going to be third-person action.
Yeah, I mean, I like Enslaved was one of my like dark horse favorite like games to play every now and then.
Yeah,
and this one gave me that vibe, except different, which I liked.
Right. Yeah. So that's my pick.
Liam.
I mean, I think I've already spoiled it a few times, and most people are surprised it's not Hogwarts Legacy. But, and what I'm really annoyed I have to pick this because the way I'm going to have to say it is going to annoy the hell out of me. Thanks, Michael. It's 16 Fantasy Final. Clearly, from a very long franchise that people care very much about. Yeah, it's that Fantasy Final. Yeah, I'm outrageously excited for this game. And it just makes me happy to feel this excited about a Final Fantasy game again. Because before 7 Remake came out, you know, it's sort of like that thing where you go into it with trepidation and you're like, oh man, I hope this is good, but it might not be, and it may ruin all of my fond memories of the original. But yeah, it was great, and I love that game, and I can't wait for the sequel. And Final Fantasy is just it's finally surging back into the annals of video games in a way that it should have been the past 10, 15 years.
Are you a fan of 15 Fantasy Final?
I haven't given it enough time. I tried to play it before and did not succeed. Evan has been trying to get me to give it another chance, and he sort of blew my mind when he told me, you just need to hold down this button and the game plays for you. I was like, okay. Yeah, I could work with that.
I mean, you could hold down the
Yeah,
button, but you
it's
also
true.
can press it, and it is as satisfying as pressing as holding.
Well, first you got to press it and then you got to hold it.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Some pro tips.
I mean, I'm with you 100%. I think, you know, Final Fantasy 16 is really shaping up. Like, there's just it's got the vibe of the old Final Fantasies, yet has the mechanics of a modern Final Fantasy that I like. I know Burkoff will forever hate it that it's not turn-based mechanics, but I am so happy we're away from that and we're evolving into something greater. If Burkoff wants to play games with turn-based combat, he can play other games that are out.
Well, you know, Mitch, if you could give me the choice right now, whether the game be an action game or switch back to turn-based right now.
Because you're playing Persona 5.
It's a different game, and quite honestly, this is going to be controversial, but I would say a lot of the turn-based stuff in Persona 5 is a little bit overrated.
Okay.
I would say it's not the strongest part of the game, in my opinion. It could lose a lot of work. I hope Persona 6 does a bit of work to make it a bit better, but yeah, if I could have a Final Fantasy game with turn-based combat, I would take that without a second thought.
As underwhelmed as I am with Shin Megami Tensei 5 as a whole, the combat is really good, and like the strategy that you have to think about going into like the boss fights, like who makes up your team and like what spells you have and all that kind of stuff. It really, even if you know the pattern of the boss going into it, it's still, there's like a tension that's there.
I was gonna say
love
same thing with
strategizing.
the Persona 5, like that the combat maybe seem as in essence simplistic in the ways of like it's basically figure out their weakness, make them stagger, but then when you get to do like an all out, I think is what the move is called, where you basically like all like do every time, I don't know why, it's like the sound, it's the visual, it just feels good every time, that it actually doesn't get boring. And I don't know why. Like it's just really well thought out and really done in that way that like
it's
it
one of the
makes
most
up
stylish
for it.
UI it's one of the most stylish UI designs in video games. I think that definitely helps.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I just think the music, the stylistic, the audio, everything kind of just works in the combat. So when you do an all out, it just feels so good. Like you could do it forever and it would feel good. And the music's just really good too. So like the music, like it's same thing with like people hate Final Fantasy. Oh, which one is it? Final Fantasy 13 is Lightning, right? Yeah. People hate Final Fantasy 13. I think the music for the combat is some of the best music of all Final Fantasy. It's really good.
I don't hate 13. I just think it didn't live up to its it didn't live up to expectations, and it didn't live up to its potential.
It almost had too unrealistic of expectation, though. It was pretty.
Oh no, I don't think so.
No, yeah.
One of the things, that was the start of Final Fantasy storylines becoming way too convoluted, and them doing that weird thing where they don't even put they don't give you the full context of the story in the actual video game. It's like you have to go outside to external materials to figure everything out, and it's just like, maybe in Japan that's acceptable, but it sure as hell ain't acceptable over here in the West.
Yeah, like the one thing that I will say about 16, even if I'm not excited that it's action combat, it's not part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis stuff, which is all of 13 and 15.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying, Liam, is one of the biggest issues with 15 is it still holds on to that, where like the story, even though the plot is pretty basic, it's a guy going for, the prince going for his princess, and okay, whatever, but like all the other stuff that surrounds it, and like all the different factions, and having to learn what the hell is actually going on in terms of the war that they're fighting and all that kind of crap is like, yeah.
Well, I think it suffered the same thing of 13, which was it's in the game. It's just a lot of writing. You have to. It's not
easy to parse.
It's basically you have to read a novel before you play the game in the game to understand the material. Which I get it. The only reason why I say I thought it had super hype up is I played Final Fantasy VIII as a kid for a little bit, and then I just like couldn't beat it because I was just too young to like figure out games and stuff. Like, early on in the younger days when you try to beat a video game and you really don't know how to beat it and you just try your best. I think like the farthest I got in 8 was after the dance scene. It was very early. It was like the dance scene from Graduation. Like that's how far I got, and I didn't know to go on the train to like go through that part. So like I literally very early.
You didn't like drawing magic for 8 fucking hours?
Yeah.
You didn't like that?
No.
And then not being able to use magic because you needed it high numbers to be linked with your equipment. You
Yeah,
didn't,
yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't appreciate
Yeah,
that?
so
Okay.
so going into 13, it seemed as if, at least in the like a mindset of a person that didn't play Final Fantasy, like this was going to be the biggest Final Fantasy ever in the history, and one of the best video games in the history of video games. Because one, it looked amazing in the trailers it had for it because of how good it looked, and it was coming out for like, you know, Xbox 360 and PlayStation, and it's like 3D and all that. It's just like, it seemed like something with too high of expectations that it was going to not make it no matter what, but it also didn't help itself in the process.
They focused heavily on the visual flair
Yeah.
and not enough on the level design, and not the way that the levels look or anything like that, because they look amazing like when you're in those areas. But it's basically you walk down a hallway for 15 hours and then, oh, here's an open section for 5 hours, and then you're back to hallways. Like, you know what I mean?
No, I totally get you. And I think also, like, it was, you know, early on showing what the gameplay they thought it was going to be with the combat. It was way more stylistic than it ended up being. I think I remember she like running across the area and jumping over and shooting these people, and it looked like a movie, but then you could see like the UI popping up of like them taking damage, and I was like, oh, is this how the game's gonna play? Like, oh, and then it's like, no, that's not how the game's gonna play.
There's a guy, I don't know if you remember the Spoonie one from the Spoonie experiment. He had, and I love this because it's really true. He had likened the combat in 13. He said it's the difference between playing in an NFL game and coaching one, because you're actually not playing the game. Because what was it? The paradigm shift.
Paradigm shift.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that is actually a perfect analogy, because it really is that difference. You are coaching them on what they're doing. You're not actually a single character playing it.
Yeah. It took a while to figure that that's what you need to do.
It's an interesting system. Yeah,
I do like the system.
Set up the macros ahead of time.
Yeah, that's good. Liam, I had a question for you. What was the last Final Fantasy game that you enjoyed, and what particularly about 16 makes you excited for it?
The last Final Fantasy game I enjoyed was probably Crisis Core. I didn't like 12 very much, which I must say is a much better game since they remastered it with the Zodiac Age. The original game was just way too grindy, and you just lost interest and got bored before the game got good. And I was one of those people. And before that, it was 10. 10. I love 10. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's nice they're bringing back Crisis Core as well, of course. But the reason I'm excited for 16 is the talent behind it. It's like I was happy when it turned out that Nomura and Toriyama weren't involved in this game, because
you had your chance. Get out of here.
As much as I respect those guys and love them, I think they need to sort their shit out. And luckily, it seems as though they are slowly but surely sorting their shit out. The creative team behind 16 seems to be more minded in the way of developing classic Final Fantasy games, where it's like, oh, first and foremost, we want to tell a good story, and then we want to put a fun experience on top of that. You know, and it's like you guys said earlier, it's not about the graphics, and it's not about the spectacle. Although, I mean, 16 looks to have those things in spades, and I'm just so excited about it going back to medieval times, or a medieval sort of setting. I'm excited for the story. I've loved the trailers so far. They always just give you just enough to get excited. They tease like the relationships between the characters, how the world's politics works, what direction it's going. You know, it's a lot of mysteries and intrigue, and even teasing how the gameplay systems are going to work. And after 7 remake, I'm very excited, and it's got the freaking gameplay director to Devil May Cry 5 working on the game, and I mean, this is like a match made in heaven. You know, if it's not going to be turn-based, that's the best possible action fantasy final game they could make.
I
may have forgotten a few times to say.
Can I tell you one reservation I have about the game?
Yeah, go for it.
The kid voice actor is Hugo.
Oh well.
And
you'll be
all
happy to
I
know-
hear in his voice, I just hear Amicia, Amicia. I might have to
that's
play
not-
this game. I might have to play this game in Japanese, just to make sure that I don't get that voice actor, because
Well,
I hear
luckily
the
for you,
child
Mitch.
clear as day.
Luckily for you, Mitch. I mean, it's kind of obvious if you watch the trailers a bit. That kid's gonna fucking.
Oh, he
die in the
dies
first-
right away. Thank the fucking
Yeah.
like that was the one thing I was like, thank God he's getting killed off very quickly, because I do not want to. No offense to the voice actor at all. I did not enjoy one of my most disappointed was Plague Tale Requiem, and so
It wouldn't be a Final Fantasy game. Sorry, fantasy final game without cringy children voice actors.
yeah.
Nope.
Oh my God.
No, they did it. They did it just for you, Mitch. They're like, we need to turn this guy's mind around. Let's what do they say it in restaurants? I want to say 69, but that is not it. You 68 something off the
Okay.
the menu.
What? Okay.
No.
No, it's
86th.
86.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, they 69 that kid hard.
What?
Sorry.
No, the 86th.
86.
86 them. They 86
Oh
that
my
kid.
gosh.
Oh
yeah.
Oh my God. There goes monetization. It's all gone.
I know.
now.
It just
He
our
just
episode
killed
just
it.
got flagged.
He killed it all by telling a very okay. Moving on. I want to so my most
Yeah,
anticipated game.
what is your most anticipated game, Mitch?
Before I talk about my most anticipated game, I would like to make a statement of my least anticipated game.
Okay.
I see. He's got his power back. He's got his power back. Now
over
he
the
wants to
years,
fight.
He does.
it was the year
right.
2021, and it was the year 2022. I made the statements that Starfield was my most anticipated game of the year.
Are you serious? You said that?
Starfield never came out.
Yeah.
Because as I always believe, and now even more in 2023, that it is my least anticipated game of ever.
Wow.
Wow. All right,
Loud
okay.
and proud. And I cannot take, and I'm not taking it back.
This is a year of built up.
You know, Mitch,
built
if
up,
this game's
frustration.
if this game's as bad as you think it's going to be, you're going to have one very disappointed me next year when I buy an Xbox Series X in lieu of this game coming out. Yeah, I'm going to have my Xbox. I'm going to be all excited and go, Starfield, and then inevitably, it's going to disappoint me.
I think it'll be fine. I think it's just I get a cyberpunk vibe from it. That's all. It's giving me the cyberpunks.
Yeah. All right. So should we segue into bold predictions? Because mine has to do with Starfield.
But I gotta do my most anticipated game.
All right.
Liam took mine with Final Fantasy 16, so I have to pick a new one. But
Okay.
You can't have it, Mitch.
I can't have it.
Fine.
I'm going to go with, which is interesting. It's my most anticipated, but I'm nervous about it.
Okay.
Jedi.
I wouldn't be nervous about that game.
Yeah, I'm not at all.
I am
You
slightly.
sure the game was the
I'm-
first game's janky?
I do like.
Well,
Here's the thing I'm not nervous about. Here's the thing I'm nervous about, fellas. I am not nervous about the gameplay. I think the gameplay was solid in the first one. It looks like it'll be even better in the second one. I get 2 lightsabers. Cool. I mean, you did get it. Spoiler alert, at the end of the game, you get an option of splitting it in half or putting it together. But anyway, it's giving you more options like that. Gameplay looks fine. Gameplay looks like it iterated on it, increased it, did all that fun stuff. I'm nervous about story, fellas. I'm very nervous about the plot. I do not know how this fits in because Cal Kestis is alive this whole time. It makes almost no like. I'm just you know, the story was subpar in the first one. I do like some of the stuff. Like some of the stuff was really really well done, but I think the overarching plot of this whole like finding the encryption to find all the what are they called? Where the kid Jedi called?
No, it's like known locations of the surviving Jedi or whatever.
Younglings. It's a location of younglings basically, and it's
all
like
of the people born Force sensitive.
Yeah, something like that. It's like, we all know it. Nothing comes of it because like there's movies after. Like it's a wasted plot line. I do love
those kids are getting 86.
Yeah, oh my god,
getting 86.
But I do love like. I do like the characters they had and like how one was a master and one was their former apprentice and like they went evil and was part of like that was the most interesting part of that story. And I understand like that whole object was potentially like the whole juxtaposed thing to like get you to like follow the plot line. But I just think it was flawed from the very beginning. So I'm very nervous, but excited.
You know, one of the things with Star Wars that I hate, I hate it so much, is they can never just go away from the existing material. They can never just do something new.
Right.
And I'm getting sick to fucking hell of it right now. It's like they got rid of all of the established Legends canon, which was, you know, it had a lot of great stuff, a lot of amazing stuff, and it had a lot of shitty, unnecessary stuff, you know, but it was still really great, you know, overall. They got rid of all of that just to do new stories that basically covered all of the same things, you know, and you know, because all of the old canon is just as convoluted as this one, you know. It all underscores the, you know, the Jedi didn't exactly get wiped out during during the end of the prequels, you know, that all of that stuff has been out of the window for a long time, so that doesn't really bother me. And to me personally, I thought Fallen Order was one of the better Star Wars stories they've had since they got rid of the Legends canon. You know, it was interesting. I thought the characters were great. I thought the idea of finding all of the Force-sensitive children was interesting as well. Just because, you know, it's sort of like it felt sort of cordoned off away from the original trilogy in a way that they could tell a different story where all of the stuff going on in the main canon was sort of separate. I thought, personally.
Like, I agree with
and then
you.
And then Darth Vader shows up at the end. It's like, stop bringing people back from the original series. Like, leave it alone, man.
But the way they brought in Darth Vader, I'll admit, I really liked that, though. Because, like, he kills...
It was cool.
Because he kills the...
It was cool.
He kills the person that was in the... Oh, Jesus, now I'm forgetting the names of all these...
It's not important.
The Inquisitor. Yeah, he killed the Inquisitor. And, like, that wasn't a reasonable moment because he thought he turned her and she was about to, like, get back to the light and find the light again. And here comes Darth Vader.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
It was really good.
Come on, man.
But anyway, I agree with you, kinda, Liam. I'm all for, I like that they're going away from the stuff, but I will admit, I'm really loving Andor. I'm really loving what they're doing with that. And I like, if you give me an Andor Fallen Order game, like the Andor type plot line that it follows, where it's like all about the politics of like everything happening around the rise of the Empire and like the rebels coming into play, I'm all for it. You know, I just don't know what you do.
We shouldn't knock a game for something that's not, you know, as opposed, we should take it for what it is and then criticize it for how it handles that stuff personally, you know, because I mean, what is it that Disney want to release like a new Star Wars game every 6 months, and you know, if we want like something that's like Endor, which you know, I know I've heard is good, but I haven't finished yet.
It's amazing.
But you know, like I think we'll be spoiled for choice, like maybe too spoiled, because you know oversaturation as a thing, and I'm concerned about that as well. But I mean, Fallen Order's always been a very Jedi-minded story, so I don't think telling a story like Andor would exactly fit into a Fallen Order game, considering the way Andor feels grounded is it partially because the Jedi are somewhat uninvolved with it, I would say.
Right.
I think
remove yourself from like the original trilogy.
It's telling the very human experience going on in that world.
I kind of disagree a tiny bit. You can still have Jedi in it and have it feel grounded. It's how you make the characters. It's about the characters, and because like to be honest, for me, like one of my favorite movie of Star Wars is Rogue One. And like that is just an amazing story. And like people at the end, they're like, oh yeah, the end with Lord Vader, it's fan service. And I was like, to me, I think it reinforces the fear of the people that are dealing with this extremely powerful being that you cannot defeat. And seeing the fear in the eyes of the soldiers trying to get the plans out while Lord Vader's killing these people in front of them, I think is like, it still feels grounded without feeling like mystical woohoo, because what they're presenting is something powerful to the point that you feel like you can't defeat it. It's inevitable. It's destruction. And I think that's something that they captured that I don't think Star Wars really has captured in a long time. And in some ways it actually reinforces all the other films of being like, no wonder they fear Lord Vader, because he could lift them up on the ceiling and cut them in half, but instead he decides to choke you to death. Like he's actually showing you mercy by choking you. But
Mitch, are you telling me that you didn't fear Lord Vader after his sword fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi in that first Star Wars film? You know?
When I was a child, I thought Lord
Vader was two kids in the woods, like hitting each other with sticks.
Yeah, I do like. What was it? I did like as a child, I did think Lord Vader was pretty sweet, but I did also think I was like, he's pretty like. That's not really entertaining sword battles. I find the Luke one more entertaining because he's like reaching his arm like and it's like Luke is doing all the spin moves and just Lord Vader's standing there just like
I can't move, man.
Yeah, I can't move. I'm gonna just touch sticks. But yeah,
oh man, I touch sticks.
Oh my god. Evan, oh my god.
Hey, get your head. I was gonna say get your head out of the closet.
But basically, yes, I'm excited for that game. I'm excited for the gameplay to see how they evolve it. I'm just nervous about plot.
Yeah.
If it didn't take place in the time it took place in, I wouldn't be nervous about the plot. But it's taking place in this magical time with no Jedi, and so like, why is there a Jedi?
I think that's
why. And maybe Respawn will finally make a good game. This could be their first good game they ever make. I'm excited.
I feel like all their games so far have been good.
Yeah, I thought you were Titanfall.
Sorry, I platinum Titanfall 2. That is a 2 out of 5. Canon. Canon.
I love you.
It's canon.
Yeah.
That game was so overrated. Sorry.
All right, Burkoff. It is time for bold predictions. Just to be clear, I will not be making any kind of bold prediction that involves Sony Computer Entertainment.
Obviously,
just I want to make it clear for the audience wise, because I do work at a studio that is PlayStation, and for me to like make a bold prediction, one, I don't want to feed off info of feeling like, oh, I have insider info about something, and then two, I don't even want people to like guess based off of what I'm saying to say like, oh, he means this is coming out. Then it's like, no, not going to give you any of that crap. So just so you know, I'm not making a Sony prediction. So, all right, Burkoff, go ahead.
All right, so my bold prediction is that Starfield gets a soft delay. So they've said early 2023. I think they just fucking don't give us a date, and the next thing we know, it's June. And we're like, hey, what's happening with Starfield?
Well, I mean, it is supposed to come out in the first half of the year, so June wouldn't technically be a delay.
Well, they said early 2023. So in my mind, that's first quarter.
They may have changed it at some point too. So they've already given it the soft delay, maybe.
But yeah, I don't think. Yeah, maybe like July 30th or June 30th or something is when we actually get it.
You think they pull a dick move where they do like the same trailer as last time, but instead of 11/11/22, it's 11/11/23?
Oh, I don't know. That would be that is a possibility.
It'd just be like, didn't we watch this trailer? And then you're just like 23.
But yeah, I think Xbox Studios has higher expectations than what Bethesda normally lives up to, and it doesn't mean that it's not going to be a great game a year out. You know what I mean? Like after it's been patched and all that kind of stuff. Like, but I don't think that they want to do that. I don't think they want to do the quasi early access. So, yeah.
Because they're Bethesda.
I mean, yeah, if Fallout 76 was basically early access that you had to pay full price for. So, I mean, they could do it with Starfield.
Yikesy.
People would play it. They'd spend their hard-ass money on it.
But people would also be pissed if they didn't know it was early access.
They would be pissed, but they'd still play it. They'd be like, all right, here you go, Bethesda. Here's all my notes.
Yeah.
Here's the mods. You guys can take our code. We don't care.
So okay, it's not bold enough to say a soft launch. I need a date, a month, a day. Give me something. Come on. I'm gonna pull it. When you guys make these bold predictions, I'm gonna make you go bolder than you on before. So come on, give me a bold. Give me a bold.
I think it's late summer. It's probably going to be August, like the end of August.
Okay. So it's like after Final Fantasy. They're gonna say, "You're done with Final Fantasy. Come play in the stars."
I think they're gonna try to find a weekend when nothing else is coming out, like a Friday, where they get all of the attention.
Come on, Burkoff. They're gonna pick like a Tuesday. They're Bethesda. They can ship a game whenever the hell they want.
Maybe, yeah.
No date. I mean, hell, God of War Ragnarok launched on a Thursday, which was weird, or Wednesday or something. But that was just because I think they were like trying to like match a lunar eclipse had to do with like Ragnarok lore, which was like perfect timing. But whatever. I don't know if that's legit. Like I tweeted at someone and they said maybe, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be like sometime when nothing else is coming out. They're gonna try playing it when Starfield's the only thing that anybody's talking about.
Evan's gonna go get a prompt for his bold prediction. Maybe he's gonna write it on the board for us.
Matt, what I wanted to know from you is, do you think Starfield will actually be good? Do you think and I suppose being good is a different thing from whether it will review well. And whether it'll be well received.
So based on all the stuff that I've seen, because I fell down that hole, like all the YouTube leaks and analysis and hours of people talking about, what they think based on all this evidence. I think it will be good. I think it's going to be a solid Bethesda game. I think that they are sort of taking from No Man's Sky as well as Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. And so hopefully it's not too mainstream, and like hopefully you can kill essential NPCs and shit like that. I don't know. We'll see.
What is your anticipated?
Hopefully you can kill children.
Well, yeah, essential NPCs.
What's your anticipated review score? What do you think the average review score will be for this game?
I don't know. It's definitely going to launch with bugs no matter what, no matter how long they fucking delay it. And I think people are going to be a little more critical of that.
Bugs is not a review score. What's a review score? Bold predictions. All right, 78. Okay, that's bold.
Yeah. Can I counteract that?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be about like 91.
Really? You think it's going to score that high?
It's the best reviewed game since Skyrim.
Okay.
I'm going bolder, gentlemen. I think it's going to do a 90. 98.
No, it's not going to get Zelda numbers.
It will
Get
get
the fuck outta
Zelda's
here.
numbers.
Zelda and Mario numbers? I don't
Hell
think
yeah,
so.
it will.
Interesting
we're
you
talking-
predict that, Mitch, as a Starfield hater, or at least the Starfield. What's the term?
Detractor?
Detractor. Yeah.
As the 4-time reigning champion of the Game of the Game Awards, I clearly understand how the journalists think, and the journalists are tripping balls over this game. They're tripping balls more than any other person. Because you know what? Who's going to review these games? The people that love Bethesda. And that's kind of half why I hate reviewers. No offense.
Right, okay.
Like, I honestly believe review companies should have 2 people. One that doesn't like these kinds of games and one that does, so that they can come to a consensus together to come up with a score instead of just traveling on the I love this genre. Oh, I love this. I love this.
The Famitsu way of reviewing games, where you've got, was it 4 or 5 scores at average?
100% agreed. I believe that's what it is, and I don't think journalists will be hard on this game. I think journalists will love it and be like, "This is something you never experienced before. You could talk to NPCs. Oh, NPCs." And be like, I can talk to NPCs in any game. Oh my god, there's a day and night cycle. Oh, well, there's a day and night cycle in tons of games I played recently. I played Elden Ring. That's got a day and night cycle. And you guys fell hard for that one. If they are tripping balls over Elden Ring, they're going to trip balls over Starfield. There's no doubt in my mind.
Space Skyrim?
Space Skyrim. How are they not tripping
balls? You almost said Skyrim. I thought it was funny.
So, yeah, they're going to be tripping balls. Evan, we were going around and saying, what's the review score you think is of Starfield? Your bold prediction. What is your review score you think the reviewers are going to give it? I did 98.
78.
Oh,
wait,
wow.
What would you say?
78.
78.
Same as me.
Yeah.
Oh, you said 78?
You said 78.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be a solid game, but I think it's going to be buggy, and then they're going to go between a 7 and an 8 because of it. Maybe it's been hyped since they released not even a logo. It was like a wisp in the ether. Was it Todd Howard? What's his name? Tim Howard?
Yeah,
he threw it out there. Yeah.
You know why they did that? Because they were literally in turn like, stop asking us what our next game is.
Sure. And you know what? Actually, fair enough to them if they're sick of that stuff. Fair enough.
Well,
right?
Okay. The thing on my bold prediction is it would only get that score if it gets pushed to fall of this year.
Okay.
That means it'd have enough time to fix all the buggy bugs. Microsoft, I believe, wouldn't let them release a buggy game. I honestly believe Microsoft is willing to bite the bullet this time around and say, you cannot release this if this is buggy as hell. You cannot do this to us.
Yeah, they've got some other stuff. I mean, they held steadfast with Halo, you know. Like they got really critical feedback on the way the enemies looked from that one trailer, and they're like, all right, fuck it, we're just gonna delay this shit, And the multiplayer was ready ahead of time. They're like, okay, well, here's the multiplayer, but you gotta wait on the single player.
How did that work out for them though? Does anyone
Okay, hold on. Let me clarify for you guys now. Look at this. Metacritic. Skyrim has a 96.
Of course it does.
That's Skyrim though.
Yeah.
It's a Starfield. It's like, what's the difference? It's the same ass game. But
I don't know.
Anyway, moving on, because we got more bold predictions to go. What?
I would say just quickly, the way Bethesda have been acting lately, and the way Microsoft is, we all just assumed that they delayed it because of bugs, but the truth of the matter, it could have been any variety of reason. We don't know that when they delayed the game, they were like, oh, we were almost ready, but we just wanted to delay it because the game just needs a little extra polish or whatever.
It's possible, yeah.
And we're just assuming that it's so buggy that it'll need an even bigger delay.
Well, they're still using Creation Engine. That's like what are you doing, guys?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Gaming development is so complicated, and we don't even know the particulars of how that engine's changed over the years. Because the last time they used it before they started retooling the engine completely was in 2015, 16.
Yeah, maybe it was 16.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. I mean, they were even starting pre-production on Starfield before Fallout 4 came out. And don't talk about 76 because that is not made with any of the retooling in mind.
Not BGS, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a mystery as to how this game's going to turn out, I would say. And it could be the best thing ever, it could be the worst thing ever. We just don't know.
Moving on. Liam, what is your bold prediction for 2023?
I'm not sure which one I should go for. But it's kind of innocuous because there isn't really a way to gauge whether I'm successful or not. I mean, I'll let you be the judge of that, Mitch, and I'll just have to live with whatever you think is
I might
correct.
have to pull more out of you. We'll see.
Well, like I say, it might be a bit hard because of how innocuous of a prediction it is. But I think this game's going to be very fondly remembered for how much is going to be going on. From the games coming out to the games being announced to the news. I think the news cycle is going to be very interesting, and I don't mean just around the Bethesda shake-up. And I think as opposed to last year, which was very front-loaded with big video game news, I think the end of this year will be very loaded with video game news. I think it'll be sort of the opposite, with loads of game releases spread in and a ton of game announcements, because there's sort of been this thing built. I mean, there's just so many. I sort of said this last year as well. But there's just so many games in development right now, an absurd amount, like way too many games, and I foresee that being a problem later on down the road. But there is just so many games just waiting to be announced, and that dam has got to break at some point.
What exactly
about?
Is your bold prediction?
No, I love the build-up. By the way, no, he's leading towards it. I like this.
My bold prediction is that there's going to be an absolute, and I mean like a
deluge,
a very obvious difference. You're going to look and think back to 2022, and you're going to think back to 2021, you're going to think back to 2020, and you're going to go, 2023 was nuts. There was so much going on. So many games got announced. Like I'm talking like a lot bigger than the previous years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think next year would be the same. I think that dam is going to break, and I think Jeff Keighley's going to have a freaking great time this year because he's just going to be spoiled for choice, because everybody and their mother's going to want to announce something, and Jeff Keighley's just going to be at the buffet going, oh yeah, I'll have some of that and I'll have some of this.
Do you think he'll get enough money to buy a Bugatti and argue with Greta Thunberg on Twitter?
Well, Jeff Keighley isn't a human trafficker, so I don't think the chances of that too great.
You sure about that?
So you're just saying? There
may be some bad energy coming from him by the year's end, maybe.
So you're just saying there's going to be a lot of announced games, not released games.
Well, I mean, like all of the games that are going to release this year seem to be games that have sort of been gestating for 5 years.
I was going to say 3-4 years. Yeah.
All right. So how many games are we talking? How many new reveals are we getting this year?
Well,
big reveals.
It's big reveals.
Like AAA, like from first parties to third parties, not indies, but like what big titles? Yeah. How many big titles are we getting this year?
An absolute shit ton, Mitch. Like,
give me a number.
Well in excess of 40. Way over that.
40 AAA games are going to get announced this year?
Yeah, probably more than that. It's hard to quantify because, what do people regard to be a big game? The lines are sort of blurring these days where you're getting very big
We are the line, my friend. You make the predictions.
Well, this is what I mean about being innocuous.
You can't be innocuous on bold predictions. You got to give me a number. So you're going to say 40 is your number, or more than...
This is Mitch, this is why I made you the judge. You can decide whether I'm right or not. And I'm going to accept it, you know?
40, or you said more than 40, or just 40? What's your...
more than 40, you know.
What's your exact number? Give me an exact number.
Okay, I'll even go more than 50.
What's your exact number? I don't care. More than, I want an exact number. What is your number? We did review score
60
numbers.
60 AAA games.
Give me how many? How many? Give me a number.
I'm just saying more than 50. Okay.
No, an exact number.
I opted by 10 just for you.
Okay? 52.
An exact number. Nobody could quantify that.
All right, we're just gonna say 50 because he won't give me a number. So if he's wrong,
no, I disagree. That's unfair.
I gave you a chance.
No, Mitch, we could be arguing all day on whether
this isn't arguing. This is entertainment.
Whether some random game is AAA or AA or independent. You know, but this game doesn't count. No, this one does. You know, we'll be stuck in a legal battle for years. You know, at this point. So I'm just saying over 50. And if it's a lot more than 50, then I'm kind of wrong. I underestimated myself.
Burkoff, Evan, is he crazy or is he brilliant?
Burkoff, you want to go first? I have a question for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine that many games being announced this year, only because there are so many that I want to see more of that have already been announced. Avowed, I want to see more of a trailer on that. I want to see more on Fable. Hopefully they've got some of that done.
I love how you're talking about first party Microsoft studios, and he's just meaning everyone. He is not meaning Microsoft. He's meaning everyone.
You know, the thing with Microsoft is right now we don't know much about Sony, you know, because they've been quiet for a while. We know everything about Microsoft because a few years ago they were just like, here, have this and this, you know, please buy our freaking system, you know, and now it's like, oh, where the fuck are these things, Microsoft?
Yeah.
We've been waiting, you know.
Oh, we'll get to my bold prediction. Don't worry about it.
Microsoft is like one of the only companies that won't be announcing everything. You know?
Well, I don't know. I feel like we know most of what Ubisoft is going to be releasing too, right? I mean, they've sort of laid it out. There's a heavy focus on Assassin's Creed going forward, and we know that they've got 6 games in the works for that.
And they outlined the other day that it seems that they're announcing their new Star Wars game this year as well.
Right. So I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think there'll be 50 new games, but hopefully there's at least 50 big games that we get more stuff of.
So you think he's crazy. All right, moving on. Evan, what's your question?
All right, so Liam, 2017, PUBG, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Galaxy, Resident Evil 7, Cuphead, Persona 5. 2005, Resident Evil 4, Shadow of the Colossus, Splinter Cell, Chaos Theory, God of War, Guitar Hero. 1990, scrolling. Wait.
97.
Wait, you know he
98.
means just announcements, not
Metal Gear
releases.
Solid, Half-Life, Ocarina of Time, Fallout 2, Resident Evil 2, StarCraft. I want you to be, if you can, be a bit more focused and specific with your prediction.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that 2023 is going to be considered one of the best years in gaming of all time? I know it's hard to quantify that because it's ultimately subjective, but do you think this is going to land in a top 10 list of best years of all time in gaming in the future?
I don't know about that, because even though there's a lot coming out this year, the quality of those games could still vary. I mean, I still have my reservations for certain games. Not Fantasy Final. 16 Fantasy Final. I
think the punishment is more entertaining of him trying to fix his mistakes.
It really is. I like this.
The punishment itself.
Okay. Like Rafa just laughing himself.
But Evan, you know,
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Evan, you know that his is just predicting of announcements, not releases.
Yeah.
So not games released,
games released this year, but there's gonna be a lot of announced new titles for future
If
years.
you want, though, I could get more specific on the announcements that I know are due. Because it's like, Grand Theft Auto 6 to begin with. Take-Two has a bunch of stuff in the works. In fact, they have so much stuff that they even basically defunded one of their projects the other day, and they were working with People Can Fly, and they decided, actually, we're spending too much money, and we don't believe in your project, so get lost. Because they made new studios. We're expecting Bioshock 4. We finally got Judas announced at the end of last year.
Yeah.
There's a new studio with all of the ex-Sledgehammer Games people that worked on Call of Duty. They're basically making a competitor to Call of Duty. And you can go company by company. Probably not Capcom. Square Enix has a few things up their sleeves, I'm sure. Division Blizzard probably has a few things gestated. And Sony definitely have a few things. Nintendo definitely has a few things. It's and like more than anything else, the absolute insane amount of independent studios that have been formed from about 2018 until now, and are still being formed, is insane. And I honestly don't know how the industry is going to keep up with that many people developing that many games. I mean, it's one thing to thank the Chinese for, because they're putting so much funding into all of these independent studios, whether I like it or not. That there's just a wealth of video games coming that are well funded and independently made, which is strange for a time when we thought that independent games were a dying breed. But there's a ton of video games, and every creator you can think of has seemingly formed their own studio and is making games mainly because of other companies like Electronic Arts, mainly not serving their talent or their IPs, and people just going, well, fuck you, I'm going to start my own studio and do it myself.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what a lot of these are. We got a few tasters last year with that Wormwood game from was it something like Slightly Spooky Studios or something like that, and there's just so many more on the horizon. Ascendant Studios announced a game at the Game Awards in December called The Ashes of Ishirin or something. I can't remember. Those are just a few examples of some of those huge games that are just in the pipeline and we're just waiting for. And it's like I say, that dam's got to break at some point.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a bold prediction.
It's a bold prediction.
But I can see where you're coming from, because if there's that much stuff baking in the oven, they've got to serve shareholders and shit. You know what I mean?
I think the one thing that we've seen over time recently has been developers have been holding off on announcing projects
too early.
They've noticed they've been announcing them too early, and they have been changing that and now announcing them when they're almost done, where I don't know if a lot of these are almost done to that point, especially because transitions, all that kind of stuff. But that's just something that
one thing
that's why I think it's bold, because I was like, I don't think it's gonna happen, but it's bold. It's bold.
One of the few reasons that games do get announced early, because I would actually disagree with you. I think I wish more games got announced close to release, but they don't. And one of the main reasons for that, especially if you're an independent studio, is they want their game out there so people can see it and they can do a better job of getting people to come to their studio and work on it and finish it. It's just because when you're just a name, and maybe you have some talent that people know working there, and there'll be some people that are familiar with that person's work and be like, okay, I'd really like to work under this person because I believe he would make a good video game project. And that's not quite the same thing as seeing it and going, that's an interesting project, I would love to work on that. I'll go and work for this brand new startup studio, on their big title that can develop itself independently without any overreach from a publisher or whatever.
You guys remember Campo Santo?
Maybe that game will come out this year.
I doubt it. They got bought by Valve, and in the Valley of the Gods just went bye-bye. Valve's like, Valve is like, you know what? You're joining us. We don't make games. We make money. Damn it.
Moving on. Evan, what is your bold prediction for 2023?
All right, I got 2. I was gonna say not 1, but 2. Whatever. I got 2 bold predictions.
2 fists ready to go, man.
1, tangentially related to Liam's prediction. I think the sequel to Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Odyssey, will be revealed this year. And that whether that's a trailer or just the logo, they're not going to do Mario dirty and just show us a logo. That would be cruel. That is reserved for Metroid and Bayonetta. They will show gameplay.
Pikmin just got a title only.
Yeah, Pikmin got a
Pikmin
title.
got
Pikmin 4. I mean, they showed kind of like Ken Burns type zooming in, zooming out, still images of that game, because they don't know. They're doing the levers on the frame rate, so they're like, all right, we're going Ken Burns with this. We're going Vietnam War documentary style with this.
Yeah.
All right,
but
Evan, just because you're not bold enough.
No,
I need a date.
Oh shit!
They're revealing it. When is it coming out?
Do they even reveal
it?
it?
No. He has to predict the date regardless.
They'll do the trailer, E3 time. The game's coming out in 2024. Does that satisfy your requirements? That's kind of specific.
Give me a time of year at least. Come on.
Ooh. What if they? Okay, so what if they go March 2024 with Odyssey 2?
That sounds like a Nintendo time frame for their big games.
It's not going to be a holiday launch?
Launch time for Super Switch too.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
They're sticking with the Switch for the next 10 years.
You're not even going to match it with...
Too many people on this fucker.
Oh, I was going to say, you're not even going to push it
By the way,
fall?
a comment from McWomble. I have a question for Evan. Beanie hat indoors? ? Is that a question?
That is not a
question. I think
he
means, why the fuck do you have a beanie hat indoors is the actual question.
No, the question is, why are you so cool, Evan, with your beanie hat indoors?
Oh, let me tell you. All right,
it looks like Wisconsin cheese.
Yeah. It's,
or mustard on sausage.
I got cheese on the mind. Yeah. So my actual prediction is Insomniac, right? Prolific studio, just knocking it out of the park. I was gonna say day after day, more like year after year, but I think Spider-Man 2, and now I guess this technically will fall apart if the game doesn't come out in 2023, but they finally figured out, and I know there were iterations, I respect the PS1 Spider-Man game, although they had limited web swinging abilities. And then when did they crack that nut? Was it the Spider-Man 2 video game that came out on the... Yeah. Finally, it's okay, we're getting somewhere with making you be able to to feel like Spider-Man swinging through a city. And then, of course, 2018, Insomniac knocks it out of the park with a web swinging traversal, where you're I'm not going to fast travel on the subway because it's dumb, but also because it's so much fun to traverse this city in Spider-Man. I actually feel like I'm Spider-Man in a game, and that's something that will never happen with Superman. I'm sorry, Superman fans. It's a terrible fucking character, by the way. He's too powerful. It's boring. That's another story. But I hate Superman.
Oh, God.
But said Liam, I'm gonna stab you through the internet. Insomniac made the 2018 game and said, similar to the multiverse movie, where there's a portion where the more experienced Peter Parker moves at 60 frames per second, while Miles moves at a slower frame rate, kind of showing he's not as experienced. And they put that into the Miles Morales game, where some of his animations are he's kind of spinning while he's swinging. It's very it's not elegant like Peter Parker is, because he's just figuring out his swinging abilities. I thought it was a really nice touch to the animations. So judging from all that stuff, I think Insomniac cannot help themselves, and Venom is going to be a playable character in Insomniac Spider-Man 2. They can't just look at that character and think he's going to be a rhino-like, scorpion-like character that we're going to fight. There are dedicated individuals there. Not like the animation team is going to override the story team. Like, no, you're going to play as Venom. You fucking go back to the story. I don't know. Mitch, help me out. Is there like a story room? Is there a story room?
You're asking me
Did
so many things. It's no comment. I can't.
Okay, fair enough.
No comment.
Yeah, go back to the story room and rewrite Venom as a playable character into this script. So I just think there's too much potential there to develop a new interesting way of swinging / climbing, like the Incredible Hulk game where he's like running up the buildings. Whatever system that was, that game was actually pretty sweet. Open world Hulk game. I think there's too much potential there for them to create a unique, but related, familiar, kind of traversal with Venom, to where like Kraven's in the game as well. Venom has been known to be an ally with Spider-Man, depending on the situation. So maybe mid-game something happens where Venom teams up with Miles and Spider-Man, and you're able to play as him. I think that would be, not only is that fucking awesome as like a turn mid-game, but I think it would give these animators just drooling to do something new with the traversal in Spider-Man 2. So yeah, my bold prediction is Venom is going to be a playable character.
I've got a question.
Yes.
And by the way, I think you're right, because I think them setting up Venom as Harry Osborn instead of Eddie Brock kind of indicates that. And
Venom is always like Eddie Brock has not always been a villain.
Exactly.
As I said, he kind of moves in between, like help being an ally and an enemy. So yeah.
Yeah. Although let's not talk about those Sony films.
There was a period, well, in the animated series, even there was a period where he wasn't. He was still being affected by the symbiote, so there was like a transition period of him being like full on villain.
Oh, so actually, Burkoff, do you think that either you play as Venom or the symbiote transfers to Spider-Man at some point, and then that's how you interact with the symbiote?
It would be cool. It would be cool if that's how they did it. They gave the symbiote suit to Spider-Man first, and then it transfers.
When you say playable as Venom, Evan, and this was sort of the question I was getting at. Did you mean that playable as Venom with the symbiote suit, or did you mean that playable as Venom as Venom? Like the actual symbiote taking over someone's body.
As Eddie Brock.
Yeah,
controlling.
And another question.
Yeah.
When you say Venom is playable, do you mean in the open world, or do you mean in a MJ style stealth section like in the first game?
Yeah, because that worked out so well. What if instead of playing as Venom, you played as Eddie Brock in a stealth section in a museum? That would be so
people will be like,
terrible.
"Fuck this shit." They just
fuck this game. Yeah. No, I actually, Liam, you bring up a good question to where do they limit your play as Venom? Like, okay, you can interact with as Venom in Chapter 6 of the game in the open world, but then in 7 through whatever, and then chapters 1 through 5, you are Miles and Peter Parker. Who knows? But
I think they limit it to a scripted section where you're only in for like a short period of time, and then after you beat the game, you can swing around the city with him, but it's meaningless because you've already unlocked everything.
But New Game Plus, you can like unlock Venom as a character, and then the whole story breaks down because it doesn't make sense that you're Venom fighting Venom, and fuck that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Bring back Uncharted 2, where you can spend points and turn Nathan Drake into a skeleton with glowing red eyes carrying a golden AK-47. Make it dumb on the second playthrough. It extends the life of games. Sorry, Liam, you were saying.
I was just saying I was trying to sort of do Mitch's job by making you push your prediction.
Thank you, because I can't make comments. Because I can comment this entire section.
See, I'm acting on behalf of Mitch right now.
Thank you.
You need to lay down the law, my friend, and you need to say whether he's playable in the open world or not.
All right, Swanlin in the chat says I misunderstand Superman. It's more about
he's right.
yeah. It's not about his strength and powers. It's about him being a Boy Scout of character and inspiring people. Fair enough.
It's about him being
I know that there is
Chewy good shoes that no one likes.
Dude.
Wait, did you say a Tui good shoes?
A Tui goose shoes.
You guys haven't been reading the comics.
No.
They powered up Superman.
No, what they did was they killed off Superman and they let Superman's son take over, and he's a much more interesting character.
No, he wasn't killed off. He was away on business.
He retired, and because he's old and old and not interesting, and his son is more interesting character. Let's just have the son of Superman and start there.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
James Gunn, save Superman or star the sun. I don't care.
Yeah, John Kent, son of Kal-El. It's not bad. And he does have a part. So the big miniseries to end the year was Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. They do bring Superman back. They bring Superman back. He gets full on cosmic powers. He's like fucking Dr. Manhattan at the end of the miniseries.
Itty bitty living space.
Bitty living space. All right.
I'm talking like 10 years ago, man.
It is time for the final bold prediction.
Yeah, Mitch, what have you got for us?
I have Microsoft will not release any new or previous announced games that don't already have a release date for this year.
Interesting.
So any game that had a potential of coming out this year that has not been announced to be released will not be released. No Hellblade.
Mitch is hating.
Sorry. What about brand new announced games for this year?
No, they're not gonna. They're not. No major Microsoft first party game. Bethesda is its own beast. That's why it's plus Bethesda. And I'm also gonna sweeten the tea a little more because I have a dual threat for Microsoft this year. So that's the one, which is no first party Microsoft first party game that's already been pre-announced. So Forza's coming out this year. And then the other game would that's it. They don't have any other first party game coming out this year because the rest are Bethesda games. So every other game they were hoping it would be out this year, but they're going to say it gets delayed to next year. Because what they do is they talk about games but never release them. Let's just stick with the status quo. All right. My second bold prediction.
Hey.
Hey, it's bold. It's bold, my friend.
No, hey man, I don't have any foot in the game with Microsoft. I don't play any of those games. So I'm just
I don't know. I just do it because it's fun.
Sure. Yeah.
And until
all right,
they
what do we
release
think
good games.
about this?
Do you want to get my second part of the prediction, or do you want to go to this one first? Let's go to this one first. Discuss.
I mean, I can see that happening. I can see all of the games that they've previously announced getting new trailers with release dates in 2024. Right. But we did have Pentiment, which wasn't even announced. It just fucking came out, basically. It was announced and released in the same week. And that was Obsidian. They could have something like that in the works with In Exile. Right? In Exile could just have a game that comes out and is announced at the same time.
To defend my argument here, I'm talking about big budget game. That Pentiment game was less than $60. That was a $40 game. It was a smaller developed project.
True.
I'm going for the big, the bold, the brave.
Is that really that bold though? Because
I think it is because they should have games come out this year.
Well, I don't think so, because if Hellblade 2 doesn't make it, there's only one possible other thing that I think will come out this year. Maybe Avowed, but I don't think so. I don't think they'll ever release that in the same year as Starfield. But I think the one other thing is that small project the Coalition are working on. And if that doesn't come out, then you're correct. And I think it needs to be bolder, Mitchy boy, because that's just 2 games, and we've got a whole bunch of games that were supposed to.
Well, that's half of my prediction.
Probably...
You want the other half? This is balls to your.
Yeah. That will make things better, I hope.
Microsoft will not acquire Activision Blizzard King.
My friend. Now we're getting bold.
Yeah,
I believe.
Actually,
I believe
Mitch,
the government
Mitch reads the
acquisition.
topic. Yeah, bold.
Well, all right. So is it that they block it entirely, or do they just force Microsoft to spin off a corporation?
Xbox would have to separate. The only way it would happen if they were to block it Xbox would have to completely separate from Microsoft, which is impossible for it to do because they don't.
That's what I'm wondering.
They don't have enough money to do it. Like they would lose so much money doing it. They would go out of business so quickly because even like supporting Game Pass is so expensive.
Yeah.
And then trying to do all their other studios and like their games aren't coming out for another couple of years. Like they don't have revenue. They don't have easy revenue coming in for them to do that, it's impossible. So like if they get blocked, which is my bold prediction, they will be blocked because in the UK, it sounds like they will be blocked in the UK. So it's not just.
I don't think so.
That's true. That's not no. If anything happens, it will be in the European courts or in the US FTC. Yeah.
Well, I think if it gets blocked in the US, it's going to be blocked everywhere else. It's just not going to happen. So,
well, yeah, I mean, they only need to fail in Europe or they fail in the US and it's over.
Then it's over. So, like they're on thin ice, and especially with it's coming into question whether this can happen. So, my bold prediction is that it will be a no, especially the way the government is right now.
I mean, it's a possibility, I guess. I mean, my contention has always been that it's just a form of taxation, right? Like the regulators just want to tax the transaction that's happening because it is so big and it's a lot of money. And this is their way of doing it, is by taking him to court, by forcing him to do all this extra paperwork,
Nah, I think the government's just trying to. It understands what is happening in big tech,
but they don't though. It's not. Yeah. It has nothing like.
No, but what they're saying is like they notice what has already happened with what is they've realized they were too late to stop big tech. From what's been happening with it, and that this is what they're thinking, not what I think. This is what they are thinking. Again, 4-time champion of the Game of the Game Awards. I think of how other people think, and that's the name. Yeah, the name of the game. They feel as if they let big tech get too big because they didn't stop these small acquisitions that constantly happen. And look what Microsoft's doing. They're doing a bunch of acquisitions and they're starting to build up. And then they're like, well, this one's a huge company though. This one's like one of the most massive companies, has one of the biggest, software of all time in regards to selling year after year and a moneymaker. They're like, this is a line that we shouldn't let them cross because we let big tech become a bigger thing, according to them.
Right. I would agree with you if it was like Google trying to acquire Apple or vice versa.
Yeah.
Because then it makes sense to try and stop, that from happening. Because that's too big a segment of the tech sector.
Well, I only say that because I've seen multiple senators on their Twitter pages talk about this acquisition, and I've never heard them talk about any other acquisition in tech to say this should not go through.
It's popular.
No, it's not because it's popular. It's not because it's popular.
Numbers.
But was it before the midterms?
Oh, it was this was post midterms.
Was it okay?
It was post midterms. Plus those people that posted it were not even up for re-election yet.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I
And
don't
they
know. I
sit
think
on those
they're
committees too. And one of them is a hardcore go after, especially big banks. This person was against really hard against
Jesus.
big banks.
You're
Well,
talking about I know who you're talking about. Elizabeth Warren.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she doesn't understand business at all. But
yeah, she
anyway,
doesn't. I just want to say that politicians see a goop right, a goose ripe for the taking, and this goose is to make themselves look good.
I mean, this
Bring
goose is
up-
shitting golden eggs.
Oh my god! Yeah, and this isn't the first time they've picked on Microsoft. It's like oh, Microsoft exists. Let's pick on them. Google, Google are fine. Apple are fine. Amazon is fine, but Microsoft for some reason, what? Come on, like they're making an even bigger purchase to make their sector of the gaming industry bigger. And they still aren't the biggest sector within the games industry. It's not by any means a monopoly. Like, unfortunately, and the whole Game Pass thing gets on my tits, but it will create extra competition, and it will probably get rid of some competition also. The deal isn't perfect, but it isn't a monopoly. It's not even close to a monopoly. It gets
Right.
on my tits, but that's what it is. If they were to stop this acquisition on that basis, it would be pure hypocrisy. And I'm not saying it won't happen, because it could. And to me, they'd look like idiots if it didn't happen. If they tried to stop it, then I'd be embarrassed for them, quite frankly. Especially if they didn't do anything to follow that up with other big tech companies.
I don't think they will claim
Monopoly.
monopoly. I was going to say monopolization, but I don't think that's a word. I think they will
Monopolization.
I think they will. I think they will move towards the term of consolidation
Antitrust.
and antitrust, because when you could, they're going to start comparing this to the airlines of what they've already done, which is the airline companies. There's too few of them, which creates when one changes their market value, they all change their market value together, and then all of a sudden it screws over the consumer because none of them are willing to go against and actually create competition. They're willing just to work together, similar to how game companies raise the price of games to $70. One does it, they all do it, and then therefore then no one stands against it, and then it screws over the consumer. So like that's I think that's part of their issue, is like if you let it get too small, they're not that it's going to be monopoly, it's just going to be consolidation to the point that there is actually no competition in the marketplace, because even if you become a competitor, you get bought out potentially by your competitor because there's so few and so big. Like basically they're claiming the Amazon now, which is like they let Amazon be too big, and that's their nervousness about any of the big companies, Microsoft, Amazon, all that. So that's the reason. Bold prediction: they're going to stop it.
Even that argument doesn't really work with the games industry, because, like I said, even if Microsoft does acquire them, they're nowhere near even the biggest entity in the games industry. Sony's still bigger. Tencent is bigger than all of them. We've got all of these small publishers that still exist. It's not like the years of yonder of video games where we used to have a deluge of publishers and much smaller games makers. I'll miss those days, but they're sort of disappearing.
Well, I mean, the middle markets is basically the AAA space right now.
Exactly, and I mean, just earlier, Matt, I was talking about how many independent studios that just happened and exist now since 2018. It's huge,
Yeah.
And the industry, I think it could go wrong, but the industry is looking really healthy right now, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger every year.
Well, so the sad thing about Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard King is they're really buying like 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 4 games that they would really be publishing. Yep. Like even though Activision Blizzard King owns all of these fucking franchises that they could do a lot of shit with, the reality is they probably won't, and that's the saddest thing about it.
All right, ultimate question. This is the final thing to go around. Are you thinking my bold prediction will be true? Yes or no?
No, I don't think it goes through. I do think it goes through. I don't think that you're right.
Evan? I think it'll go through.
Yeah, I think it'll go through.
Okay. All right, it's not a bold prediction if I'm standing on my own Tiananmen Square, you know. All right.
Microsoft just doling out the cash.
Go through, there's going to be a smile on your face for 2 weeks straight.
I was like, I wonder if I can ask McWomble if there's a special reward if one of our bold predictions become correct. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, everyone. If you would like to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at pixel_pints or on Instagram at pixelpintspod. We stream live every single weekend here at twitch.tv/pixelpints. If you want to follow us, we archive every single episode on YouTube, but we also archive it on podcasting services around the globe. Thanks, guys. Enjoy having you. Great way to put in the new year. Because actually our last episode was not during the new year in America. So it is officially the first episode of 2023. And we started off with some hot takes. Hot takes. All right. And Burkoff, what do we say at the end of every episode?
And on that note, we're out.
Hell yeah, we are.
It's been a long time since I've done it. Yeah, I think that was good. Good anticipations and good predictions.